World Trade Center. Building number 2 has collapsed. Terrorist strike. In the words of Franklin D. Roosevelt, a day they'll live in infamy.
All you see now, just smoke.
Yep.
Hey, welcome to Sidelines of History. I'm your host, Gabriel Tolliver, and today's episode is a reflection of a seminal moment in all of our lives 20 years ago, 9/11. I'm sure everybody has a story about where they were that day, that morning. And I was living in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, and it was just a beautiful day, a beautiful morning that was emerging. I lived in I had a duplex apartment, Fort Greene, before Fort Greene became gentrified to the hilt. And I think I was just paying at that time. I'd been there, 7 years? So I was probably just paying over $1,000. Those were the days, Fort Greene. But it was a beautiful morning, and I was woken up by a call from my sister out in Arizona, my sister Judy. And she was like, yo, a plane hit the tower, turn on the TV. And my TV was downstairs, so I said, sure. So I'm making haste to get downstairs, and I had this little spiral staircase. But I distinctly remember hearing a faint thunderclap. And as I got downstairs to turn on the TV, I had direct TV, and there was with direct TV, there's a couple second delay. I soon saw the second tower get hit, and then later on I realized, well, that's what you heard. I heard the second plane. So flipped through a few stations, everybody had coverage, and everybody didn't know what was going on. And then there was a breaking news report about, other planes, the Pentagon, and then subsequently Pennsylvania, or whatever order that was. But then something told me to get my video camera, and soon afterwards, I ran up to my roof because I had a vantage point of Lower Manhattan from that side of Lower Brooklyn. And when I got to the roof, the super of my building, this Caribbean brother named Steven, and his associate were up there. And we were seeing the tower, before they went down. And they both had said something very prophetic back that still kind of holds today, 20 years later.
I know this was gonna happen to him. It was too quiet.
Yeah, it was.
But this guy threatened people too much, and he talked too much about the crowd.
Yep. So they're putting it to him.
Yeah. I want to see how you gonna handle this one. Gotta really put it to him, so I want to see.
Crazy history right now. World Trade Center. Building number 2 has collapsed.
And here we are, 20 years later. And it's been this crazy timeline, the wars that subsequently happened, all the suffering and deaths, civilian, military, laws. There was just so much that was because of that ripple effect of 9/11. And, if you had told me back then that 6 years later that I was gonna enlist in the U.S. Army, I would probably looked at you like you were crazy. So you talk about an event that, had this far-reaching implication, macro, micro, And for me, you know, bearing witness to its ripple effects. That's the best way I can describe it, bearing witness. So got this footage on the roof and came downstairs, you know, definitely talking to people about what was going on and happening. And then I decided to make my way over to Fort Greene Park, because Fort Greene Park was kind of on this elevation, and it had this like soldier, sailor, martyrs, prison martyrship monument that like Walt Whitman had advocated to be built there. But it was a vantage point into Lower Manhattan. And as I'm getting up to the park, you know, my camera's still on, and I'm saying to myself like something along the lines like, you know, stay calm, stay calm.
Gotta hold it down. Hold it down.
But I just knew that that moment was like, yo, this is like that game-changing moment on so many levels.
They announced who they are?
Yeah.
Fuck them. They can draft me tomorrow. Fuck them.
The Democratic Party for the Liberation
Are they
of
from
Palestine.
Bin Laden's people?
They
More
say-
than likely, because he's the
I
only
say go
He's the only one
straight to this motherfucker.
He's the only one that has
And
that.
if the Afghanis don't give them up, you take their country.
it's the only person that has
You
that type
go
of loot.
straight to
He's
them.
the
You do
only
like
one-
the Israelis. You don't play fair. You take it straight to their fucking ass.
Bin Laden's the only one that got that kind of money.
Yeah.
You don't fucking play fair now. You go straight into their shit.
Yeah, it's on now.
Straight to their shit.
we
No
have no more
international
World Trade
law,
Center.
my ass. You go straight to their shit.
And
right
you know what's
now.
funny? I always wanted to go to the top there, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Could you imagine? They can't build another fucking.
No.
Gentlemen, if you are just joining us, we're going to do a recap of this incredible weather and all the different departments and agencies reporting in to this Office of Emergency Management, which I understand the mayor wants to make a permanent part of city government.
Beth said moments ago that she wonders where the mayor is. We have not heard an official word from the mayor yet. And we, of course, would expect that in the wake of something as unbelievable as this. I'm wondering...
I went up to the park twice. Once when the towers were still up, and then I tried to get up there when the towers went down. And the reactions to so many people up there was, you know, I mean, nobody's ever experienced that. And, you know, one thing for me, having a camera, I was also very much aware that I didn't want to intrude into people's emotional spaces at that moment in time. And you know, there was that urge like, yo, I want to be all up in the mix. And then there was, you know, then there was the restraint. And, but I captured moments throughout that day. At some point later on, me and Kimson and a couple other people, we went into Manhattan, and we wound up at St. Vincent's because I think, listened to the radio, you know, there was a call out for like blankets and socks and stuff like that. So it was amazing how New Yorkers quickly mobilized in a lot of ways to deal with that tragedy in that moment in time. And so we get to St. Vincent's, which is no longer there, off of 12th and 6th Avenue, Avenue of Americas. And we're witnessing what would eventually become the creation of those walls where you post up something looking for your loved one or your missing loved one, what have you. And we had went into this Chinese restaurant called Charlie Mom's that was right next door to St. Vincent's, and they had a big bay window on the same side as St. Vincent's. So I'm sitting facing the window, and I'm seeing people, you know, going up in there, checking the hospital to see if anybody has been brought there. Because, you know, everybody thought that, okay, maybe somebody would have survived and they're gonna be bringing bodies here and so forth and so on. And, all that chaos, shit, all these stories. And I just remember trying to keep my food down. I mean, it wasn't like I was gonna throw up or anything, but it was like my throat, the emotions, that were going on. It was just so hard to swallow my food and processing all that stuff. That evening, went down to Fulton Landing, and Fulton Landing is like in downtown Brooklyn. It's like the dock area, and there was a crowd of people there too, and we were all watching the sun go down in this haze behind this cauldron of just smoke and everything, and all the pollution was in the air from the towers falling. But to be there and watching the sun go down where the towers once stood, it's crazy. And I think for myself, witnessing 9/11 the way I did, it prepared me for like 6 years later when I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna enlist in the Army and be a Army video journalist. And so I feel in some ways, having witnessed 9/11 up close and personal, it prepared me for what I was going to do and experience in Afghanistan. So it's crazy. Here we are, 20-something years later. So yeah, 9/11. Like for anybody else who lost loved ones and was deeply affected, 9/11 changed my life. And I'm grateful to have bear witness to that event and subsequently events that I saw in Afghanistan. And even like right now, like Afghanistan is the American pullout, the Kabul pullout, the Kabul airlift right now. It'll be interesting when this episode airs to see where everything is, and is it still FUBAR or snafu, and to what degree still. 1 year later, on the anniversary, the first anniversary of 9/11, I stayed on the Brooklyn side and went to the Brooklyn Promenade, which looks over the East River. You can look over the East River and see Lower Manhattan. And I remember getting there, and there was a diverse crowd of like construction, iron workers who had walked down from like downtown Brooklyn to the Promenade. And it was very, very quiet, very solemn as everybody looked to where the towers once stood. And then there was, there was that, moments of silence, and then everybody, all the workers then started making their way back up to their jobs. What a time. But anyway, I thank you for watching Sidelines of History. If you have your own recollections of 9/11, where you were, how you were feeling, and you like to share, drop them in the comment section. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and tap the bell. Check us out on Facebook and check us out on Instagram. But thank you for watching. I'm your host, Gabriel Tolliver, and this is Sidelines of History.